Every single thing you have bought online, every piece of furniture in your house, every phone in your pocket, at some point, traveled inside a steel shipping container on a cargo vessel crossing the ocean. There are more than 60 million of those containers scattered across the planet right now. However, not a single government, not the United Nations, not any international authority is tracking where they all are. So, who is? That answer involves Wall Street, spy agencies, and a few $billion. And it starts with a problem you have probably never thought about. The containers that carry 90% of the world's non-bulk traded goods across the Pacific Ocean, through the Suez Canal, and into the port of Rotterdam do not have GPS. There is no blinking dot on a satellite map following your container from Shenzhen to Long Beach. Instead, location is inferred, stitched together from digital breadcrumbs left behind at every stop. A gate scan when a container enters a port terminal in Singapore. A booking record from a freight forwarder in Hamburg. A vessel signal picked up by a coastal receiver as the ship passes through the Strait of Malacca. A customs manifest filed electronically in Los Angeles. Each one of those events is a tiny fragment, billions of fragments per year. Whoever figures out how to stitch those breadcrumbs together into a coherent picture essentially owns the map of global trade. A handful of private corporations figured that out decades ago. What they built is worth more than you think. Take IHS Markit. Over decades, they built one of the largest maritime intelligence libraries on Earth, operating from offices in London and Washington, tracking ships, port calls, vessel ownership, and compliance records. Their clients were not just shipping companies. They included governments, insurance firms, commodity traders, and investment banks. Then, in 2022, S&P Global acquired IHS Markit for $44 billion. Overnight, that entire maritime intelligence operation got plugged directly into Wall Street's financial infrastructure. Container data stopped being just a logistics tool. It became a financial signal. But IHS Markit was not the only player building this invisible map. And what came next changed the game even further. Marine traffic launched in 2007 as a research project at the University of the Aegean in Greece and started aggregating AIS signals, the automatic identification system that ships broadcast to avoid collisions. They built a global network of over 13,000 coastal receivers and satellite feeds, turning raw vessel signals into a real-time picture of ocean traffic that 6 million people visit every month. What started as an academic ship tracking website turned into a prediction engine. Marine traffic now sells analytics to hedge funds that try to estimate oil inventories based on tanker movements in the Persian Gulf, to major energy companies that monitor routes through the Strait of Hormuz, and to logistics operators who calculate port congestion at the Port of Los Angeles before their cargo even arrives. They are not just showing where ships are, they are forecasting where ships will be and what that means for commodity prices. But the visibility race did not stop at ocean tracking, because containers do not just sit on ships. They move across rail lines, highways, and warehouse docks. That is where companies like Descartes Systems Group and Project 44 stepped in. These platforms integrate data from ocean carriers, port terminals, rail networks, and trucking companies into a single real-time feed. Major retailers and freight forwarders use them to track shipments door-to-door across 6 continents. Project 44 hit a valuation of $2.7 billion in 2022, which tells you exactly how much Wall Street believes this data is worth. And some cargo owners using these platforms know about shipping delays before the shipping line itself admits them publicly. The data moves faster than the official communication. Now you might assume this is purely a commercial game. Companies tracking cargo to save money and move goods faster. But governments are just as dependent on these private feeds, and for reasons that go far beyond logistics. Sanctions. Enforcement relies on commercial maritime intelligence. When the US Treasury needs to find vessels in a dark fleet turning off their transponders to move sanctioned crude oil, they turn to the same private dashboards that hedge funds use. Ship-to-ship oil transfers in the middle of the Indian Ocean, the kind used to evade sanctions on Russian or Iranian crude, are detected using satellite imagery and AIS gap analysis sold by private firms. After the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, subscriptions to these maritime intelligence services surged across Western intelligence agencies. National security decisions affecting geopolitics and global energy markets are being powered by corporate data subscriptions. Let that sit for a second. The same dashboard a hedge fund manager in Manhattan uses to front-run oil prices is the same tool a sanctions analyst at the Treasury Department uses to track an Iranian tanker going dark off the coast of Oman. But the money side of this story might be even bigger than the security side. For commodity traders and investment funds on trading floors in London and New York, container data has become one of the most valuable early indicators in the world. If you can see that port throughput in Shenzhen dropped 15% last month before official manufacturing statistics are released in Beijing, that is an enormous trading advantage. If you can estimate how much grain left Odessa this week, based on vessel movements in the Black Sea, you can front-run agricultural futures markets. The logic is simple. Being earlier than official statistics means money. Funds are willing to pay enormous premiums for speed. Days of advantage, sometimes hours. The catch is that none of this data is clean. Automatic identification system signals have gaps, especially when vessels deliberately go dark in the open ocean. Customs filings often arrive late. Containers are sometimes reassigned mid-voyage without updated records. Data from different sources, conflicts with each other constantly, and yet billion-dollar decisions still rely on it every single day. Because imperfect information that arrives early beats perfect information that arrives too late. The next evolution is already underway inside ports and factories across Asia and Europe. Smart containers equipped with IoT sensors, GPS modules, and satellite connectivity are entering the fleet at scale. Around 18% of containers already carry some form of smart technology, and that number is climbing fast. That means millions of containers broadcasting real-time location, temperature, humidity, and door open status directly to whoever owns the tracking platform. That will make the private intelligence networks even harder for governments to compete with. It also raises a question the shipping industry has not fully answered. Who owns that data? The shipping line? The container leasing company? The sensor manufacturer? The cargo owner who paid for the shipment? There is no official world map of every container on Earth. No government agency has a view of the whole board, but several corporations have already built that map, quietly, over the past 2 decades. And access is for sale to anyone who can afford the subscription. You just learned how a handful of private companies built the most complete picture of global trade. You learned how Wall Street and spy agencies both depend on the same dashboards, and why the data is worth billions, despite being far from perfect. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe for more deep dives like this.